This is USA Tariff Collapse, and what you're about to hear might change the way you look at America's biggest retailer forever. For decades, Walmart was the heart of small towns, the place where families filled their carts with everything from groceries to clothing, convinced they were getting the best deals in the country. But something has shifted, and it's not just about money. Millions of Americans are walking away, and they're not coming back. Prices that once felt unbeatable are now quietly creeping higher, while the quality of products, from everyday essentials to trusted household brands, is under growing suspicion. Reports of supply chain shortcuts, overseas factories cutting corners, and shocking labor investigations have begun to crack the smiling blue logo that once symbolized savings. Even longtime loyal customers are posting online that the Walmart they grew up with doesn't feel the same. Some describe store shelves filled with cheap imports. Others complain of food recalls, and many say the trust they once had has been shattered. And when trust is gone, people stop shopping. But here's the real question. What is driving this mass exodus, and why are millions of Americans suddenly deciding they'd rather pay more somewhere else than keep swiping their cards at Walmart? Stay with me, because the reasons behind this collapse will disturb you more than you think. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why so many are walking away from America's so-called favorite store. Number 4. Walmart's groceries. For decades, Walmart's grocery section was sold to the American public as the very definition of value. The place where parents, retirees, and young workers alike could fill their carts without fear of going broke. But today, the story in those aisles looks very different, and millions of Americans are beginning to realize the trade-off was far bigger than they ever imagined. Prices on staples like eggs, milk, and bread are climbing in ways that feel almost invisible at first glance. Small increments that add up to shocking totals at the checkout. What once cost $60 for a week's worth of basics is suddenly $100, and customers are left wondering when everyday low prices became a broken promise. Yet the rising cost might not even be the biggest problem. It's the disturbing decline in quality that has long-time shoppers questioning whether they can trust Walmart's food at all. Reports of vegetables that turn slimy within days, strawberries that grow mold in less than 48 hours, and chicken that carries an off smell even before its sell-by date are flooding online forums and news stations. Investigations by watchdog groups have revealed that Walmart has quietly shifted sourcing for many of its groceries from long-standing American suppliers to cheaper overseas operations, often in countries where safety standards are murky at best. What does this mean for the customer? It means food that has traveled thousands of miles, sitting in containers, warehouses, and trucks, before it ever reaches the shelf, losing freshness and sometimes picking up contaminants along the way. Older Americans on fixed incomes feel the weight most brutally. Imagine a retired couple in Kansas, carefully budgeting their Social Security checks, stretching every dollar just to keep food in the fridge. They used to rely on Walmart because they believed it protected them from being overcharged. But last year, after buying ground beef that turned gray in the refrigerator after just 2 days, they gave up. For them, it wasn't just about the wasted $12. It was about realizing they could no longer trust the store they had depended on for decades. And they are not alone. Thousands of seniors, many of whom have limited mobility and few shopping options, are now speaking out online, warning others to double-check every label and every expiration date, because Walmart's groceries no longer feel safe. On TikTok and Facebook, photos circulate of bread loaves with mold spots still sealed inside the packaging, milk cartons spoiling days before their printed expiration, and frozen dinners pulled from shelves due to contamination risks. Each post is like a tiny alarm bell, and together they form a chorus of distrust. Even younger families who once praised Walmart for convenience are walking away. Parents with children complain that the fruit they bought for school lunches rots before the week is half over, forcing them to throw money straight into the trash. Many have turned to Costco or Aldi, where slightly higher prices seem worth it in exchange for peace of mind. Farmers markets are suddenly seeing a surge of older Americans returning, willing to pay a little more for produce they know was picked within driving distance rather than shipped halfway across the world. And the irony is impossible to ignore. Walmart spent decades driving local grocery stores out of business with promises of unbeatable value. And now those very communities feel stranded, forced to accept whatever quality the giant provides because there's no competition left. It's like being held hostage in your own hometown grocery aisle. The problem is not just perception. Walmart has faced multiple lawsuits over contaminated products. Everything from spinach tainted with E. coli to peanut butter linked to salmonella outbreaks to frozen meals recalled for containing metal shards. Each case chips away at the fragile trust customers once had, and while Walmart issues public apologies, the damage is already done. Think about it. Once you see a national recall notice connected to a store where you shop, do you ever look at their shelves the same way again? Many Americans don't. The suspicion lingers, and more customers are quietly making the decision to shop elsewhere. And then there's the issue of shrinkflation, packages that look the same on the outside but contain less food inside. A box of cereal that used to hold 20 ounces now has 15, but the price tag hasn't budged. Seniors who read labels carefully feel insulted by what looks like a deliberate trick, a slow erosion of value hidden behind familiar logos. It feeds the growing sense that Walmart no longer stands on the side of the consumer, but on the side of corporate profit, cutting corners in ways that leave ordinary Americans footing the bill. This quiet betrayal is fueling anger in communities nationwide, from Florida retirees to working parents in California. So when people say, "I've quit Walmart," it's not just about higher prices. It's about broken trust, wasted money, and a gnawing sense that the very food they feed their families might not be safe. Walmart built its empire on the promise of protecting ordinary Americans from exactly those fears. And now, by neglecting quality and chasing cheap sourcing, it may have destroyed the one thing it could never afford to lose: customer loyalty. Every spoiled tomato, every package of slimy chicken, every recall headline pushes another shopper out the door. And as millions walk away, the world's largest retailer faces a reckoning that no flashy slogan can cover up. Number 3, Walmart's pharmacy and health section. What happens when the store that promises to take care of America's families begins cutting corners in the one place where safety and reliability matter most? Your health? For millions of Americans, especially seniors who depend on prescription drugs and over-the-counter medications, Walmart's pharmacy used to be a lifeline. The appeal was obvious: lower prices, convenient hours, and the chance to pick up groceries and prescriptions in one trip. But beneath that convenience, disturbing cracks are showing. Cracks that have left many customers questioning whether trusting Walmart with their health might be one of the riskiest decisions they've ever made. In dozens of states, pharmacists who once worked behind Walmart counters have stepped forward with alarming stories. Understaffed shifts, corporate pressure to fill prescriptions faster, and quotas that push pharmacists to process hundreds of scripts per day mean dangerous errors are far more likely. A missed decimal point, a mislabeled bottle, a generic substituted without proper counseling. Any one of these could turn a life-saving drug into a life-threatening mistake. In 2022, an investigation by local news outlets in Texas uncovered a series of cases where seniors were given the wrong blood pressure medication. One woman in her 70s collapsed at home and was hospitalized after taking the pills she believed were safe. Only later did her family learn they came from a Walmart pharmacy that admitted to a dispensing error. For that family, the savings of a few dollars nearly cost a life, and the problems don't stop with mistakes. Walmart has increasingly leaned on low-cost generics imported from overseas, particularly from factories in India and China, where safety inspections are often criticized as lax. Reports from the FDA have highlighted contamination in certain batches of blood pressure drugs, cholesterol pills, and even common antacids. These aren't theoretical risks. Americans have lived through recalls of blood pressure drugs laced with carcinogens and heartburn medications found to contain dangerous impurities. When customers pick up a prescription at Walmart, they rarely know where the pills were manufactured or whether they've passed strict safety tests. For older Americans, many of whom already juggle multiple prescriptions daily, the thought of swallowing a contaminated pill is terrifying. But it's not only prescriptions causing outrage. Walk down Walmart's aisles of supplements, vitamins, and pain relievers, and you'll see rows of bargain-priced bottles. Independent labs have tested some of these products and discovered shocking inconsistencies. Supplements containing far less of the advertised active ingredient, or in some cases, none at all. A senior in Florida who relied on Walmart's store-brand vitamin D later learned from her doctor that her levels were dangerously low, despite months of faithfully taking the pills. When she switched to a different brand from a health food store, her numbers improved almost immediately. Stories like hers fuel suspicion that Walmart's cheapest health products come at the highest cost, the health of the very people who can least afford mistakes. And then there are the over-the-counter drugs. In 2019, Walmart faced lawsuits over its sale of homeopathic cold remedies marketed as effective treatment for children. Critics argued that not only were these remedies ineffective, but some contained ingredients that could be harmful in large doses. Parents who trusted Walmart's shelves felt betrayed, realizing the store had prioritized profit over transparency. Seniors who rely on cold and flu medications, pain relievers, and heartburn drugs now wonder if they can believe the labels at all. The real tragedy is how many Americans feel trapped. In rural towns where independent pharmacies have long since closed, Walmart is often the only option left. Seniors drive miles just to pick up their prescriptions, waiting in long lines at understaffed counters, only to worry later whether what they received is truly safe. One retired nurse in Arkansas described her experience. "We wait 45 minutes just to get our medicine, and then we get home and realize the pills don't even match what we had before. I used to check with the pharmacist, but now they're so overworked they barely have time to answer questions. I don't feel safe anymore." Online forums are full of similar stories, and the pattern is undeniable. Customers who once praised Walmart's pharmacy for affordability now describe it as stressful, unreliable, and in some cases dangerous. Younger families are turning to mail-order pharmacies provided by insurance companies, while older Americans are trying to return to small local drugstores when possible, even if it costs more. The theme is always the same. People are willing to pay extra for peace of mind, because when it comes to your health, the cheapest option is not always the safest, and this is where the collapse begins to take shape. Walmart built its empire on trust. The idea that you could buy food, clothes, and even medicine at a lower price without losing quality. But every pharmacy error, every contaminated pill, every lawsuit chips away at that trust. For seniors, who make up the most loyal and vulnerable segment of Walmart's customer base, these failures feel like a betrayal. You can cut corners on a t-shirt. You can cheapen the fabric on a pair of socks. But when the product is medicine, something people need to stay alive, the stakes are too high. And millions of Americans are realizing that Walmart has crossed a line they can never forgive. Number 2, Walmart's clothing and everyday goods. For years, Walmart has been the go-to store for families who needed affordable clothes, shoes, and everyday household essentials. Parents knew they could grab school uniforms, socks, jackets, and even kitchen items without spending half their paycheck. Seniors relied on Walmart for simple basics like slippers, sweaters, and linens. But today, more and more Americans are realizing that what's hanging on Walmart's racks and sitting on its shelves is not just cheap. It's cheaply made, sometimes dangerously so, and it's eroding trust in ways that can't be repaired. The most obvious complaint is quality. Customers report jeans that rip after just 2 washes, t-shirts that shrink to half their size, and shoes that literally fall apart at the seams. What used to last a season now barely survives a month, leaving people feeling cheated even when they paid only a few dollars. Seniors on fixed incomes, who count on buying one pair of slippers to last through winter, have been shocked when soles tear off within weeks. Parents complain that their children's backpacks and jackets bought for school unravel before Christmas. Walmart's response? Simply replace it with another item from the same line, equally flimsy, equally disposable. The result is a vicious cycle: more waste, more frustration, and more people deciding they'd rather spend a little extra somewhere else for products that actually last. But beyond quality, there are darker concerns. Investigations into Walmart's supply chain have uncovered disturbing facts about where these clothes and household goods really come from. Factories in Bangladesh, Vietnam, and China churn out enormous volumes of garments for Walmart at record low costs. Reports from labor watchdogs describe sweatshop conditions, workers earning pennies per hour, fire hazards in unsafe buildings, and even child labor in some subcontracted facilities. For American shoppers, especially younger generations who care deeply about ethical sourcing, these revelations feel like betrayal. Buying a $5 t-shirt doesn't seem like a bargain when you learn it may have been stitched together by an underpaid worker in unsafe conditions halfway across the world. Seniors, too, are responding with outrage, saying they don't want to wear clothes built on suffering, even if the price is low. And then there are the safety issues. Independent consumer groups have tested Walmart's clothing and household goods and discovered traces of toxic chemicals, from formaldehyde in fabrics to lead in children's jewelry and phthalates in plastic items. These chemicals aren't just abstract risks. They have real consequences. Formaldehyde can irritate skin and cause rashes. Lead exposure is linked to developmental problems in children. Seniors with sensitive skin have reported rashes and allergic reactions from Walmart bedding and clothing. In one widely circulated case, parents discovered that a Walmart children's raincoat contained levels of lead that exceeded safety recommendations. Lawsuits followed, but for many families the damage was already done. Everyday goods tell the same story. Pots and pans that warp after a few uses, light bulbs that burn out weeks earlier than advertised, and towels that shred into threads after the first wash. These items flood American homes because they're cheap, but consumers are discovering that cheap ends up costing more in the long run. Instead of replacing one set of dishes every decade, families are buying 3 in just a few years. Seniors who thought they were saving money realize they're draining their limited budgets, replacing broken appliances and flimsy clothes again and again. It's not just inconvenient, it feels like deception, and the emotional toll is striking. People don't just feel disappointed, they feel disrespected. Walmart built its empire by telling Americans that their needs mattered, that everyday low prices was a promise to protect their dignity. But how dignified does it feel to wear a sweater that unravels in public, or to hand your child a backpack that splits open after a month? Online forums are filled with stories from embarrassed parents and frustrated grandparents who thought they were making a smart purchase, only to end up humiliated or angry. The social media backlash is growing, with entire pages dedicated to mocking Walmart products that fall apart after minimal use. Each photo of a shredded towel or cracked pot is another nail in the coffin of Walmart's reputation. Younger families are turning to Amazon, Target, and even thrift stores, preferring secondhand clothes that last longer than Walmart's new ones. Seniors are driving to Kohl's or local outlets where they feel at least some assurance of quality. The shift is visible. Walmart aisles that once bustled with shoppers browsing racks now stand oddly quiet, with customers rushing past the clothing section altogether. People still come for essentials, but fewer are trusting Walmart for goods they expect to last. And this is the heart of the collapse. When millions of customers start to believe that every item they touch in Walmart is disposable, the brand's entire foundation begins to crumble. Clothing and household goods may not seem as serious as medicine or groceries, but they define how people feel about the store as a whole. If you can't trust Walmart to sell you a pair of jeans that won't fall apart, why would you trust them with your groceries, your health, or your family's safety? That creeping sense of distrust spreads across every aisle, and it's driving more and more Americans to quit Walmart entirely. Number 1. Walmart's corporate collapse. At the surface, Walmart still looks like the unstoppable giant it has been for decades. Thousands of stores stretching across America, millions of customers walking through its sliding glass doors each week. But beneath that corporate smiley face logo, a collapse is unfolding. Not overnight, not dramatic like a building falling down, but slow, steady, and devastating. And millions of Americans are beginning to realize that the world's largest retailer is no longer the same company they once trusted, but a machine that's breaking down under its own weight. The signs are everywhere. Entire stores are closing in neighborhoods that relied on them for years, leaving behind empty parking lots and dark shells of what used to be community hubs. In 2023 alone, Walmart announced dozens of closures across states like Illinois, Oregon, and Wisconsin, citing financial underperformance. But ask the locals, and you'll hear a different story. Rising theft, deteriorating quality, empty shelves, and a company that abandoned them the moment profits dipped. For communities, especially rural towns where Walmart wiped out smaller competitors years ago, these closures aren't just inconvenient, they're catastrophic. People are left with food deserts, long drives for basic medicine, and shuttered buildings that stand as monuments to broken promises. And for those stores still standing, customers are noticing decline everywhere. Understaffed aisles, self-checkouts replacing workers, security guards pacing the front doors as shoplifting surges. Shopping at Walmart feels less like saving money and more like surviving chaos. A grandmother in Chicago described her last trip. Only 2 human cashiers open, self-checkout lines stretching down the aisle, shelves half empty, and workers too overwhelmed to answer questions. She left her cart behind and hasn't returned since. These aren't isolated stories. They're part of a wave. Walmart's obsession with cutting labor costs has left stores understaffed and customers furious. And when people begin to feel like they are doing Walmart's job for them, scanning, bagging, and paying higher prices for the privilege, loyalty collapses fast. The scandals reach beyond customer service. Walmart has been under federal investigation for labor violations. facing accusations of wage theft, unsafe working conditions, and union-busting tactics that paint a dark picture of how it treats its employees. Former workers describe brutal schedules, denied overtime, and being forced to manage entire departments alone for hours. These workers were once the backbone of Walmart's success, but now they are leaving in droves, fueling the rise of TikTok videos where ex-employees openly warn shoppers to never trust Walmart. Seniors who once appreciated Walmart's friendly greeters and familiar cashiers now walk into cold, automated environments where customer care feels like a relic of the past. That human connection, the sense of belonging, has been stripped away. Financially, the cracks are undeniable. Walmart still makes billions, but the costs of recalls, lawsuits, theft, and declining trust are mounting. Analysts point out that while revenue grows on paper, profit margins are thinning, and investor confidence is shaken by the very trends customers see in the aisles. Higher prices, worse quality, and fewer loyal shoppers. Amazon and Costco are luring away younger families with better deals online and bulk savings, while Aldi and regional chains chip away at grocery sales. Walmart is caught in the middle, trying to be everything to everyone and failing on both sides. And when competitors offer not just price but also trust, Walmart's empire begins to look hollow. The most devastating blow, however, is cultural. Walmart once symbolized American resilience, the promise that no matter how bad the economy got, there was always a place where families could afford to shop. But today, Walmart has become a symbol of decline, a place where products are cheap and disposable, where food feels unsafe, where workers are burned out, and where communities are left behind. Millions of Americans are quitting Walmart, not just because of higher prices or spoiled groceries, but because the brand itself has lost meaning. When customers no longer feel proud or secure walking through your doors, no amount of slogans can save you. This collapse is not happening with a bang. It's happening with every abandoned cart, every senior who drives an extra 10 miles to a competitor, every young family that clicks add to cart on Amazon instead of walking into a Walmart. And once that trust is gone, it rarely comes back. Walmart built its empire on loyalty, and now that loyalty is bleeding out. So when we say millions of Americans are quitting Walmart, it's not a headline, it's reality. It's visible in the empty checkout lines, the boarded-up stores, the online forums filled with angry former customers. It's visible in the way seniors are warning each other to double-check expiration dates, in the way parents are warning against flimsy clothes, and in the way ex-employees are exposing what happens behind closed doors. Walmart is collapsing not because one scandal destroyed it, but because 1,000 small cuts, greed, neglect, shortcuts, and broken promises have finally caught up to the giant. And now, the very communities it once dominated are quietly, steadily, and permanently walking away. Here's the chilling truth. Walmart's collapse isn't happening in headlines with one dramatic moment. It's unfolding right in front of us, slowly, store by store, aisle by aisle. What was once sold as America's most reliable bargain has become a cautionary tale of what happens when profit comes before people. From groceries that rot in days, to pharmacies that make fatal errors, to clothes stitched in sweatshops and shelves stocked with toxic goods. Every corner of Walmart tells the same story. A story of cutting costs until the trust of millions has been cut away too. And now we see the result. Seniors refusing to risk their health, families abandoning their loyalty, communities left with boarded-up supercenters where small-town life once revolved. Walmart is learning too late that once Americans lose faith, they don't come back. So the question we leave you with is this. If millions are already quitting Walmart, will you be next to walk away? Or will you keep swiping your card at a company that no longer puts you first?